Hi everyone, I'm Jack the Rambling Raconteur. I hope that you're doing well. Now that my school year's over, summer is here and it's nice and hot here in Arizona. It's great sailing weather, which means it might be great whaling weather. So I want to join in and share my 4 literary white whales. And this video concept originated nearly a month ago from Guilty Feet. Loved it. I loved all the videos I saw in the intervening period. I've just been really busy, but I saw Brian over at Bookish, Sean D. Standfast, Michael K. Vaughan, Evening Reader, Read and Reread, David Novak, Steve Donahue. I'll link all those videos in the description box below. Go and enjoy each of them, but I do want to share mine. And I was reminded of the great tag about 18 months ago, almost 2 years ago, the Mooks and Gripes bucket list tag, where we listed books that we hope to read, sometime before the end of our lives. And I sort of broke mine into categories, and I thought it would be a great time to reflect on that. And so I realized that I had said I was going to read Kallocain by Karen Boy and The Radiance of the King by Kamar Lay, and I read both of them. Loved both of them. Legitimately loved both of these books. I also had acquired, in the meantime, more essays from Virginia Woolf, and I've been enjoying those. These were things I sort of had highlighted as these are in my future reading, and they might be difficult, they might be hard to find, but I'm going to read these. The great treasure trove, of course, was finding an affordable copy of Lumumba Speaks, the collected speeches and writings of Patrice Lumumba. This was, I think, translated into English one time, and it went out of print. It became prohibitively expensive. I found a copy for a steal and had to repair the spine, but this has been just absolutely fantastic as I've been able to read and dig into it over time. So I thought about those, and I was like, well, great, it's not going to be a rehash of that video. I also thought about works that I put into a different group. So I have a list of writers who I absolutely love. I really enjoy what they write. I enjoy their writing style, or there's something about their sensibilities that I find provocative. And I have essentially reserved one book from each of those writers as something to enjoy late in life. I'm not going to intentionally not finish the works of these writers so that I have something to go to when I feel like I really need it, is kind of the way I describe it. And so it's something my wife laughs at. So Light in August by William Faulkner would be on that list. Please don't spoil any of these. The Lady in the Lake by Raymond Chandler. Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare. It's the last of his great comedies that I have yet to read. The Sound of the Mountain by Yasunari Kawabata. The Telling by Ursula K. Le Guin, which will really be the last of her Hainish works that I'll read. At any time, it could be either Parmenides or The Laws from Plato. Those are really the last of his major works that I have to read. And I've gone and read pseudo-Plato in the meantime to sort of stave those off. 2 more recent editions. One would be Thomas Bernhard. So this is a writer I've only been reading for about a year, have really fallen in love with, and I missed the group reading for Woodcutters last month. And this is kind of going to be the Bernhard work, I think, that I'll reserve and enjoy in the future. And then Love from Toni Morrison was really the last of her important novels. They're pretty much all excellent, but it was the last of her great novels that I had to read, and I read it last year and absolutely loved it. So those were writers that I'm not including in this. I'm not actively pursuing these works. I'm not on some sailing trip out to find them. I know they're there. They're just waiting on my shelves for the time in my life when I feel like going to that corner and spending some time in the world. So here are my 4 literary white whales. The first one is a book called I the Supreme, or Yo el Supremo, by Augusto Roa Bastos. Now, the main reason I'm interested in this novel is I hear amazing things about it. I just can't find a copy. Now, I've searched. I could probably find a copy for like $5 online. I've just sort of been hoping that one would appear in a used bookstore for me and call out to me. That hasn't happened. Eventually I'm just going to acquire a copy, and I actively look for it. I look on a monthly basis for this book. I just haven't found a copy. My library doesn't have a copy, and part of the reason is that the subject matter that is interesting. I've had it recommended from a number of different commenters, other channels who have praised it, and as I have tried to read more and more widely, I've realized I've never read a book from Paraguay, and this would be a book from Paraguay. And so it kind of fits in, and it's one that I'm looking forward to reading once I get my hands on the copy. I suspect it'll be in the next 12 months. So the second one is a book I made a huge dent into last year. Unfortunately, I have learned that I need to not participate in read-alongs at the start of a school year. It's always just this nightmare of emotion and time consumption. And particularly last summer when we were remodeling our house, and I was taking my daughters, one to school, one to a daycare because her school year was starting a couple weeks later. It was just a whole series of shenanigans. But what I read of The Tale of Genji, I absolutely loved. I even read the diary of Lady Murasaki to like get ready for it in pregame. And I was really enjoying this. I felt bad that I wasn't able to contribute as much as Quentin over at Idjit Reads and Rambles was. But I'm looking forward to sitting down and reading The Tale of Genji and really focusing on it and not feeling distracted from life. So I'm not sure when that will be, but I'm certainly looking forward to it. I loved what I was experiencing. The language, the symbolism, the elliptical way the narrative continued was just absolutely incredible. And the way that it really was a book that it felt like we were like listening around the corner to the action. We were peeking through a curtain, you know, almost peering into a window, trying to read people's lips and understand what was going on. There's so much subtlety with what's happening in The Tale of Genji that it requires that type of attention, and it rewards that type of attention. So that's number 2 on my literary white whales. Number 3, I'm very, very excited for. It's a book that I only learned about 15 months ago. And in the meantime, I've been able to acquire all 5 volumes, beyond excited. That book is The Plum in the Golden Vase, or The Qingping Mei, by Scoffing Scholar, which is one of the great anonymous like nom de plumes of all times, The Scoffing Scholar. This is a work that was written in the 16th century in China. It was published in the early 17th century. And it is this hyper-realistic, incredibly detailed exploration of a man who is living in a harem, and it's just living life. And it's filled with details of that world, of Scoffing Scholar's world, of the court, of the town, of the interior lives of the different characters. There's a sense of their motivations. Everything about it just screams that this is far, far ahead of its time. There are comparisons to Bleak House by Charles Dickens, Ulysses by James Joyce, In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust. I've read all of those. I really enjoyed most of those. I won't say which one I did. But this is a book I'm beyond excited for. And I have acquired all 5 volumes. So I have volume 1, volume 2, right? 3 is The Aphrodisiac. I'm very excited for that one. Volume 4 is The Climax. And then volume 5 is The Dissolution. This was a gift to me from my wife in the past few months, and this really completed it. And now I have all the volumes. I'm ready to begin this. You'll also note that this is an enormous number of books. We're talking 3,500 pages, and it's a world unto itself. You'll also notice with the subtitles of those volumes that this is a book that's very frank about human sexuality. So that in itself, occurring in the 16th, 17th century, is just far ahead of its time. With that, the only reason I haven't started reading the Plum in the Golden Vase yet is because I'm finishing up The Outlaws of the March, aka The Water Merchant, and by Xin Yan. And this is 2,000 pages. This is much more of an adventure book. It is almost like this extraordinarily well-written series of adventure serials or comic books. The way that each chapter sort of ends on this cliffhanger that says like, what's going to happen next? And you just are compulsively reading the next section. This is dynamite. And this was a predecessor work to The Plum in the Golden Vase. The characters, key characters of The Plum in the Golden Vase, including Qingping Mei, are sort of secondary characters in the first half of The Water Merchant or Outlaws of the March. So very excited. Once I finish this summer, I will be beginning The Plum in the Golden Vase, and that'll just be a delight. But the 4th one is now going to be the replacement for that prohibitively expensive book that I just cannot find. That book is Black Sunlight by Dambudzo Marechera. And the reason is I've read The House of Hunger, which is, Marechera was from Zimbabwe. He attended schools in the UK and wrote a series of stories in The House of Hunger, sort of about the African diaspora there and how harrowing that experience could be, not just emotionally, but like legitimately, physically, financially, what that felt like, feeling like a person was barely living like almost in the gutter, and how do you find like humanity and dignity in that moment. It's absolutely incredible. I highly, highly recommend it. If you've never read a book from the African diaspora experience, it's up there with Ama Ata Edu, with Our Sister Killjoy, or Bushi Imasheta's novels, So I would highly recommend Housefunger. But Black Sunlight, I'm very interested in. It seems like he was, again, we have a writer who's emulating the deep formal, like modernist, postmodernist techniques that were being pushed in the 20th century. The problem is it's almost impossible to find. I think there was a very small print run through Heinemann. Perhaps there's one other edition that I've seen has been published. Well, we're talking copies that are $200, $250. So I'm a good hunter of used books. This is the true like literary white whale. The other ones are just a matter of having the time to go on the voyage. This is the one that it's gonna pop up one day. And I know what it looks like. I know what the spine looks like. And I'm gonna spot it, and it's gonna be mine. So that'll be the one that I'm really excited about. I'll be showing that one off. But these are my literary white whales. Now you might be thinking, wait a second. Here's the thing. I've read an enormous number of books from European writers from the US. I read almost a major work by almost every major writer there is. And I'm looking for more voices, more different modes of writing, different voices, different experiences. That's what I have really been enjoying more recently. And so these are my literary white whales. So again, if you haven't done this yet, please share yours in the comments. If you have a copy of Black Sunlight, just mail it to me. I'll mail it back. I'll read it in 3 days, do a video on it, transcribe what I want to, and mail it back to you. I promise. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you.